Ian arrived in Florida. More on the devastating storm making landfall tonight. And here in Norman, the turnpike battle continues at the Oklahoma State Senate. And U.S. citizens in Russia are in danger following Russian President Vladimir Putin's latest move. This is OU Nightly.
To feel the brunt of a near Category 5 hurricane in our area.
The monster has moved ashore. Hurricane Ian is hammering southwest Florida right now. Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Cameron Joyner.
And I'm Parker Abels. We begin tonight with the very latest on the catastrophic Hurricane Ian.
Hurricane Ian made landfall just 2 hours ago, roaring ashore in southwest Florida town of Cayo Costa. That's around 22 miles west of Fort Myers. The hurricane's eye wall is being described as extremely dangerous, and residents in the area are bearing the brunt of it right now. CNN reporter Gloria Pezmino has the very latest.
It may appear to be calm at some point. You may just be in the eye of the storm, and the backside of that will get very, very nasty.
Hurricane Ian packing winds and rains that officials warn will cause catastrophic floods and life-threatening storm surge.
That's where we could really see those 12 to 18 feet of storm surge inundation above ground level. That's 3 times as tall as I am. So that's really an unsurvivable circumstance.
Ian caused a nationwide blackout in Cuba on Tuesday. And now Florida is dealing with mass power outages.
We also have line workers and linemen and line women coming from 27 other states. They're positioned at 24 different locations throughout the state.
Schools, supermarkets, airports, and theme parks across the state have closed. Sarasota's mayor deciding to pull police officers from the city's streets due to the dangerous conditions.
At this point, all we have is ourselves as a community, so take care of your neighbors because we're in this together and we're going to make it through.
Cities across the Sunshine State bracing for Ian's impact.
Hurricane conditions will continue over the southwest part of Florida throughout the night. And of course, our thoughts are with everyone on the west coast of Florida right now.
Meteorologist Catherine Liberta joins us now with more on what's expected in the next few hours for Florida. Catherine?
Thanks, Parker. This is a monstrous storm with winds up to 155 miles per hour, which makes it just below the Cat 5 ranking. And because these winds are so strong, we're looking at this live satellite right now, those winds are going to be pulling that water in and causing devastating storm surge. Looking at the current storm surge right now in the Port Charlotte area, we can see we are ranging from 0 feet up to 12 feet of storm surge. And in the Fort Myers area, that's pretty much the same story, except we could be seeing up to about 16 feet of storm surge. Now, I've been saying storm surge, but you might not really understand or know what storm surge really looks like. What happens is that this water is going to be pushing up onto the beach and inland as well. Now, when a very strong hurricane like Ian is just offshore, we can see that this water is going to be pulling just into the sand, and then when it makes landfall, which it did just a few hours ago, this water, because of those very strong winds, is going to be shoved right onto the beach and even inland as well. And so we saw those current storm surges just moments ago, but across the entire western part of Florida, they could be seeing very, very strong storm surge later this evening. Back to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Our team coverage of Hurricane Ian continues now with a look at some of the roles Oklahomans are playing in tracking and researching the storm. OU Nightly's Collin Mertz shows us how meteorologists here in Norman are involved with Ian.
As Ian moves ashore in Florida, Oklahomans are braving the storm in the name of science, many of them affiliated with the University of Oklahoma. I'm here at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma, where some of the faculty have been emptied out, deployed to Florida to conduct important tropical research. One of those on the chase is Dr. Addison Alford with the Cooperative Institute for Severe and High Impact Weather Research and Operations, or CIRO for short. From a wind-rocked truck in Florida, Dr. Alford explained why research is so important.
Every time we do a field research program that studies, tornadoes or severe hail-producing thunderstorms in Oklahoma or hurricanes, oftentimes we'll move the science forward in a way, but then that leads us to more questions.
The team uses mobile instruments and radar trucks to gain high-resolution imagery of Ian to further our understanding of tropical storms.
All of the devastation that hurricanes can cause, there are benefits to us being able to observe these things. But the most important thing is, at the end of the day, we're trying to improve forecasts, to mitigate risks to communities, and ultimately keep people safe.
It is that same goal that drives meteorologists all over the world. For OU Nightly, I'm Collin Mertz.
The Storm Prediction Center here in Norman is responsible for issuing tornado watches related to Hurricane Ian today. Another chapter in the Turnpike turmoil for residents here in Norman. Pike Off OTA a group fighting for the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority controversial plan met with an Oklahoma State Senate committee yesterday. OU Nightly reporter Purpura was there, and now she's coming to us live from a neighborhood that's in the path of one of the proposed stretch of highway. Pepper?
Cameron, Parker, current plans for the Turnpike show. It'll be running directly through homes right here in this neighborhood of Vista Springs Estates on the east side of Norman. Homeowners in the area say the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority never should have had the power to make that decision without talking to them first.
We're trying to get some accountability put back on the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority for the citizen protections.
After battling the OTA at the Supreme Court to stop plans for a turnpike through East Norman, Pike Off OTA is asking legislators to restrict the power of the Turnpike Authority.
So ethically, the citizens should have been contacted and told about these projects well before they were announced and given a chance to have some input.
Pike Off says they want more oversight.
Make it required that before they even get authorization for a route, they have to actually have studies that prove that it's needed and that it's wanted.
They also want more recent authorizations required for major projects.
What happens when we get down 35 and 30 years after the fact and we try to build a turnpike? A lot of things happen. The legislators are gone now, who were there and enacted those old routes. The governor's gone. The OTA is completely turned over hands.
The OTA outlined their process during the discussion.
Basically, to develop a plan between agencies to move forward.
But the community still wants more communication and input.
We want the community's wishes and goals to be incorporated in anything that the state of Oklahoma decides to build.
I talked to one homeowner in the area. She says besides her own house, there are about 6 other homes she's aware of that are at risk of being taken by the Turnpike Authority if something doesn't change. Live in Norman, I'm Purpura, OU Nightly.
Thanks, Pepper. Another hot topic for drivers, gas prices. Tonight, we know President Biden offers strong words for gas and oil companies who may hike prices in light of Hurricane Ian. Zoe Watson has that in the rest of today's national and international headlines from the News Center.
Thanks, Parker. President Joe Biden says the federal government is on alert and in action as Hurricane Ian bears down on Florida.
That's warning to the oil and gas industry executives. Do not, let me repeat, do not use this as an excuse to raise gasoline prices or gouge the American people.
Ian is not expected to pose a major threat to national oil and gas supplies. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow issued a security alert overnight urging U.S. citizens to leave Russia immediately. The alert came in the wake of Russian President Vladimir Putin's order for military draft of Russian men to fight in his war in Ukraine. The alert said Russia may refuse to acknowledge the U.S. citizenship of dual nationals. The embassy has severe limitations on its ability to help U.S. citizens. One of the rioters who brutally attacked U.S. Capitol Police Officer Michael Fanon on January 6, 2021, has learned his fate. On Tuesday, Judge Amy Bermain Jackson handed Kyle Young a sentence of more than 7 years behind bars. In May, Young pleaded guilty to assaulting Fanon. The officer was tased in the neck and lost consciousness during the attack. And now something not on Earth, NASA had discovered a spiral galaxy 29 million light years from Earth. They described it as space, but make it goth. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Zoe. Well, a new department on climate change is on the horizon for the Environmental Protection Agency.
Find out how we'll address low-income areas when we come back.
And also regarding climate change, concerns are rising, and so is the sea level around the island of Maui.
More on the threat of the Hawaiian island after the break.
The EPA is launching a new department. Maui shorelines are eroding and farmers are receiving federal funding. Bailey Coyle has these stories in Earth Report.
Thanks, Cameron. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced a new Office of Environmental Justice. The office will address imbalances in air and water quality in low-income areas. It will also oversee a $3 million climate and environmental justice program created by the Inflation Reduction Act. This bill marks the largest government program to address climate change in U.S. history. And over in Hawaii, the Maui shoreline is quickly eroding away. As you can see in this video, there are fallen palm trees and sidewalks are unwalkable. Climate experts say that this is a direct impact of rises in sea level and global warming. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says the sea level will continue to increase 20 centimeters by 2050. This increase will cause beaches to erode by 15 yards. And heading over to California, farmers are receiving federal funding to become more eco-friendly. The Department of Agriculture's Climate Smart Commodities program is giving them $130 million in federal funding. The grant will go towards developing more eco-friendly farming strategies. Some of those strategies include lowering water usage and carbon emissions. And north of California, a tiny Oregon town is hosting the first renewable energy plant that combines solar power, wind power, and batteries. Cameron and Parker, back to you.
Thanks, Bailey.
All right, well, let's go to Catherine Liberta one more time before we go to break to see what's going on with Hurricane Ian.
That's right, Cameron. We are taking a live look right now at Cape Coral, Florida. We can see just devastation across the southwest of Florida. We're going to have more on that damage coming up later in the newscast. Welcome back to OU Nightly. Social media today was blowing up with footage from Hurricane Ian. We can see that we're looking at some videos right now from Twitter. We can see just devastation across the southwest of Florida. And we can see this. Look at this cam. This camera was set up 8 feet above the ground, and yet it looks like it's on ground level because of that extreme storm surge, like I mentioned earlier. In this video, that's a shark in somebody's backyard. That would terrify me. So I can't even imagine the devastation that these people in the southwest of Florida are feeling right now. I mean, you can see those strong winds are just continuing to damage the southwest of Florida. And this is a live look right now at a camera in Bradenton, Florida. You can see this storm surge is just continuing to batter these coastal towns, and the wind is continuing to be extremely strong. We're looking at this live satellite right now. This storm is a monstrous storm that is going to continue to leave its impact on the entire state of Florida. We're looking at our current power outages right now. Fort Myers is almost at 500,000 power outages, and this number, all of these numbers are going to continue to increase throughout the night. Even look at Orlando up there. They haven't even reached the strongest part of the storm, and they're already at 5,000 power outages. So this storm is just continuing to wreak havoc across not just the western part of Florida, but across the entire state. This storm is going to continue to move out into the Atlantic Ocean and leave the peninsula of Florida later this week. And then this storm is going to continue to turn, it's going to become a tropical storm, and then it's going to make a second landfall into South Carolina, and it's going to continue to dump lots and lots of rain, not just in Florida, but across the southeastern part of the U.S. Now, speaking of that rain, we are going to look at the forecast for that rain across Florida. We can see 28 inches. That's almost 2.5 feet of rain that is going to be pouring across Florida. Now, that's not the story for us here in Oklahoma. We can see over the last 30 days, we only had 2 inches of rain here in Norman, which makes this the 5th driest September on record. And then this drought is going to continue throughout the rest of the year. I mean, we can see that this drought is continuing from where we usually sit this time of year, almost 30 inches of rain. We've only had 20 inches, so we are just under 10 inches of where we should be. Now, this this precipitation is going to continue to be below average for the next 2 weeks, and our temperatures are going to be way above average than what they should be. And we can see that right now with our current temperatures. We are in the mid to upper 80s across the metro, and this is going to be the case for the rest of the state and for the rest of the week. We can see that those temperatures are going to continue into the upper 80s. Back to you.
Thanks, Catherine. OU volleyball is undefeated at home, but they have a challenge in front of them tonight.
Sydney Bush has a preview of their match in sports. Sydney?
After their loss last week, OU volleyball is looking to slam a win by Kansas tonight. And football is following suit, trying to bounce back this weekend after their loss to K-State. Sports is next. Hi, I'm Sydney Bush, and it's time for sports. On Saturday evening, the Sooners suffered a 7-point loss to the Kansas State Wildcats. OU Nightly's Addison has more as the Sooners turn their focus to the Horned Frogs.
The Wildcats upset the Sooners for the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons this Saturday at the Palace. This loss marks the first for Brent Venables in the Dylan Gabriel era. Head coach Brent Venables talks about how they're going to improve and learn from their mistakes.
And you start completely over every single week. I think that's the way that I know how to do it, and it has proven over time that that's the right way. And you learn from your past. That's how you grow and improve. This is the greatest opportunity to teach and lead is right now. Through a loss. I know that without question. And as we've had success early in the season, you got to take the bad with the good, too.
In looking ahead, the Sooner squad will travel down south to Fort Worth to face the TCU Horned Frogs. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. Reporting from outside Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, Addison Arthur, OU Nightly.
Looking ahead to TCU this weekend, Sooner defensive back Key Lawrence is revved up to bring back the energy after Saturday's loss.
We back, it feels like it's fall camp again. We got to bring the intensity, bring that passion back. Understanding that this is way more detailed than we think, and we got to take this opportunity. We can't take it for granted. So we got to understand that, and the guys out here understand, and they know that we need everybody to buy in. And this is the time when we need to uplift each other instead of pointing the fingers, and we just get out here and work.
Hoping to serve their first conference win of the season, OU volleyball is hosting Kansas tonight at McCasland Fieldhouse. After last week's loss at top-ranked Texas, the Sooners, who are undefeated at home, are glad to be back in Norman. On Monday night, the New York Giants suffered 2 losses, one against the Cowboys and the other, their #1 receiver Sterling Shepard, with Tuesday confirming his torn ACL. Today, the former Sooner expressed on Instagram his gratitude for the outpour of love he's received and his focus on healing. With Shepard's sudden injury, some fans are calling for a switch to grass in MetLife Stadium. Parker, Cameron, back to you.
Thanks, Sydney. We'll be right back with another look at Hurricane Ian.
I'm Sarah Sullivan at the OU Nightly Update Desk. OU Medical Center has confirmed its plan to terminate several gender-affirming medical treatments. This happened after Oklahoma lawmakers said they would withhold millions of dollars in federal funds. OU Health said its senior leadership team is trying to eliminate specific gender medicine, but its spokeswoman did not say which ones. Back to you, Parker and Cameron.
All right, let's get one last check from Catherine on Hurricane Ian.
Thanks, Cameron. I want to take one more look at that current storm surge in the Fort Myers area. I mean, we can see just devastating, not even just devastating, life-threatening storm surge. So it's extremely important to get to higher ground and to be as safe as possible because this storm surge is very, very dangerous. Back to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Parker Abels.
And I'm Cameron Joyner. Be sure to tune in tomorrow live at 4:30. Good night.